everyone, this is Charlotte. I'm once again driving in a car when I shouldn't be. I should be painting. It's a podcast where I talk about random topics. Sorry, get music there. Random topics while I attempt to get places. I should be painting at this point, but again, it's one of those ones where I'm snatching time where I can. The disclaimer at the start of this podcast, because I do talk about sensitive topics and I swear a lot. So if you don't want to hear me swearing or anything like that, I suggest changing the channel, listening to something else more wholesome. I've been listening to a lot of meditation music lately, which is kind of helping me relax a bit, so not a problem. Those, what is it, something, it's like 490 hertz meditation healing songs, so they're pretty cool. I also sleep to them, so they're helping right now. It's just passing the book out. The topic for this podcast, this episode, is grief. And the reason I'm doing one while I'm driving is because I am currently driving back up to my dad's hospital where he is. After the last podcast, if you watched the last podcast, you'll know that he's got stage 4 bowel cancer. It's just ruptured, and is now leaking toxic, I would say, bowel fluid into his body, and at the moment we're just trying to deal with shit as it happens. So you know, that's the general feeling about it. So it's quite appropriate for this podcast to be based on this topic, I assume. I don't know if it'll go for an hour. I don't know what I can say about grief, really. Basically, so I don't know if anyone's going through the grieving process right now. I'm hoping it's not too bad for you, quite frankly, because it's never a good thing that happens. Generally, you feel like shit in yourself, let alone whatever it's happening. If it's happening to someone else, you also feel bad within yourself. I swear to God, at this point, I'm just running on pure adrenaline. So, I look like shit because I've literally just come from work and now I'm racing up the highway. So, it's get there when you can, if you can, and hopefully everything's going to be still going when we get there at this point. Bit of drama, and you know how I feel about drama. It's like, I don't like drama. But we're going to keep moving. I might be swearing at people more. I noticed that yesterday when I was coming back, because I went at the hospital yesterday as well, and I was swearing at people more on the way back and the way up there because they wouldn't move. Basically, for this particular example, what my dad has decided to do, because he's got his bowel fluid circulating his body because the tumor ruptured, it's toxifying his body essentially. He is currently on antibiotics, very strong antibiotics, in order to keep fighting whatever toxins were in his bowel fluid. And if they stop those antibiotics, essentially the toxins take over and the inevitable happens. So it's more of a question of when at this point. We thought we had months with him. It turns out, thanks to this rupture, we now have days, maybe. All of us are pitching in. It's a group project. We're all getting it done. We're all doing what we can, when we can, if we can. I can't think of anyone who's not trying to help at this point, which is great. This is an emergency situation somewhat, and a crisis situation somewhat, but we're getting it done. At the moment, my younger sister is down at my mum's house. I did an emergency dash to the airport to pull her back from the gate at Melbourne, which she almost got all the way to Melbourne and into Vietnam. If you've been listening to the other podcast I just listed. Fucking drama. So she's down with my mum at the moment, which is an hour and 10 minutes away, which I'm just driving towards now to pick her up and then go a further 40 minutes after that to get to the hospital my dad is at. My brother and my older sister would have gone up some point today. My brother had today off, so he's got to go see my dad. this morning probably. And my older sister lives about an hour the other way from Bunbury, so about an hour, I don't know. So we're all trying to get there. His plan, and this is his words, my dad's words, is I want to see everyone before I go, and then I want to volunteer to take myself off the antibiotics. So it's kind of like taking yourself off life support is his way of doing things, what he wants to do. I said ride out the antibiotics until they fail, but I don't know. So that's probably a mature way of viewing it. He doesn't want to drag it out in case it gets painful. He's not in pain at the moment, which is a good thing considering it's the bowel. My granddad Fred went with pancreatic cancer, so it's a good thing it's not pancreatic cancer. He can't feel a thing at this point, and if he does, they're going to morphine the shit up. So he's well chuffed, and he said he's had the best sleep ever, and his colour is okay, and he's eating and stuff like that, and we're okay. Alright, so we'll go with your plan. I like to have, we had a discussion last night with him, because my younger sister and I went up to talk about how he's going, how he's feeling, and I was more interested in the emotional side of things. My dad doesn't talk about his emotions. When he's grieving, he just isolates. Well, we all isolate in our family, so he doesn't talk about anything, and I know this will be intimidating for him, but he wouldn't admit it. He's putting on sort of like a brave face. I mean, all kind of are. That's kind of like the armor side to grieving, really, isn't it? To put on a brave face and kind of keep going. But, you know, we're talking about more the affectual side of things as well, how he was going to cope with it. And he's an atheist, so he doesn't believe in the afterlife. Sorry, I'm trying to find a decent fucking song to make my brain tick. He's an atheist, so he doesn't believe in the afterlife. He's not like me, where he's a divinist, or a Jehovah's Witness like my mum, who believes you do the heaven or the resurrection stuff going on. So we didn't have that discussion, only because he's not about talking about shit like that. You can't talk about religion or politics with him because he just loses his shit. And at this point in time, I don't want to bring something up that will agitate the situation, basically. Which is horrible, because I am concerned obviously for him, even if we didn't have a great relationship, as a lot of people do have with their parents, and particularly their father. Sometimes they have a great relationship. I'm still concerned for him. He doesn't want to, it's like he doesn't want to talk about it. He's kind of not taking it quite as seriously as we thought he would. Keeps trying to crack jokes and stuff, and I'm sitting there going, well, that's just a defense mechanism to this. And I can understand why he was getting pissed off at people before. The nurses said it was the toxins getting into his brain, and that was causing mood swings and stuff like that over the last couple of days. But honestly, I would understand if he was frustrated at his circumstances. It was something that was just sort of thrown at him. Even though there was a build up to it, it was just sort of thrown at him, and then suddenly it quickened and paced along quite quickly. So we don't wholly know what's going on entirely, but the doctors have said it's a matter of days. And he went in Tuesday. He went in Monday night. No, it's Wednesday today. It's Wednesday. So it's a reality he's going to have to deal with possibly before the end of the week, which is pretty intense in itself. Not only that, there's the whole thing about getting his affairs in order as well, which is partly at the moment my brother's business and my younger sister's business, because he signed them over as power of attorney. So at least with that in mind, he doesn't have to deal with that side of the reality of the situation. My mum's holding up quite well, supposedly. My older sister Laura says she's putting on a brave face, so her grief is somewhat relative to my dad's and the rest of our families. My brother, I would say, my older brother, who's possibly the softest, of the four of us is putting on a brave face, but you know, I can anticipate his reaction to what will happen. I mean, it's unavoidable at this point. Even the doctors have agreed to this. It's like, there's nothing can be done, can't be operated on. My older sister is like, why can't you just vacuum the shit out of him? And it's like, no, it doesn't work that way, because once it's leaked, it's sticking to organs and stuff, and you can't really get rid of it. So we've all gone through all the scenarios of how can we fucking fix this, because we've got a family of fixers at this point. It's like, we gotta be able to fix this, right? It's like, yeah, just, and it's dealing with the reality of this is unfixable. And to be honest, I probably won't even post this until after he's passed, because it's just a bit intense for, you know, even us at this point to deal with the reality of what is going to happen. I can promise you all of us at the moment are either running on adrenaline or stopping to cry and then keep going. So it's the stuck in the heat of the moment situation. We haven't hit the eye of the storm yet, which is him actually passing through. And to be honest, after that, there's going to be a whole bunch of other shit happen. So it's going to be, you're going to get a small pause and then you're going to keep running. So as long as we can keep moving, it should be all right. That's probably not the healthiest way to deal with grief at this point. I know we have got, at least my younger sister and I have got a bit teary at times. Grief tends to hit me at this point at random times. I don't have the logical, immediate hearing bad news and then start grieving. But, you know, it tends to be when I'm alone, which is natural because I always isolate myself anyway when I'm upset. I don't want to be talked to, I don't want to be looked at, I don't want to be touched. I just want to be left the fuck alone to deal with what the fuck's going on so I can get it straight in my head. Which is a bit heartless in itself, because you do tend to get a bunch of people trying to connect with you and empathize with you, and I'm like, my walls are up, fuck off. I want to deal with this on my own. And that is part of my hyper independence, which was cultivated from a very young age. I also have issues with regulating my emotions at appropriate times. So whilst I might be maybe a little bit confident at this point and just powering through, I know at some point it's going to fall. And I don't think it will actually stop me or slow me down, but at the same time, it's going to be something I'll have to reckon with, because I'm not going to internalize that shit. Hopefully it's something that's not in public, so that'd be embarrassing. But you know, we all deal with things in different ways. Some people have got the social skills that are, oh, fuck off. Really? You're calling me one? Fuck. See, that's another thing. It's like, you know I'm doing something, do not fucking call me. Anything that detracts from my focus makes me want to fuck it. It's Joey, my older brother. Do you ever get that? Where you're like hyper focused on one thing? It's like, all I gotta do is just get there. Why are you trying to distract me? Move. So that's one thing that bugs the fuck out of me. It's like, you know I'm driving. Why are you trying to contact me while I'm driving? Irritating as shit. It's like, you know what I'm doing. So that's part of my way of grieving, is to get ultra pissed off about people who just cannot anticipate or don't consider what the fuck I might be doing at the time, considering we're all working on the same project. It's like, don't call me. I'm getting there now. Because you know what the call is going to be is, where are you? I'm going to be like, I'm getting there. So yeah, so that's one way I deal with it. I get super frustrated about stupidity. What are you doing on my fucking wing? There's a nice bag. Anyway, but you shouldn't be sitting my blind, so there's another one. Is that a nice one? No, it's a Honda. Boring. So people are trying to empathize with this, but I haven't told anyone at work. I haven't told any of my friends online, my friends from high school. I just don't tell anyone. And I don't tend to tell anyone because growing up, if you tried to connect with people over something that's gone wrong, like a tower moment or something like that, or death or losing something, the response was generally invalidation and, you know, just not, it becomes a pissing contest and someone else has always got it worse. whilst it does give you perspective, that sometimes some people do have it worse, but at the same time, everyone deserves a sort of a recognizing of issues that they might be facing. You can't just keep constantly validating someone else's experience and expect them to be fine with sharing future ideas or problems with you. It's how you build intimacy, is to be able to show that vulnerability without someone constantly saying, I had it worse, or that's not a problem, or why are you dealing with that? You know, it's like it's that invalidating. It's like, it's not as bad as you think it is. It's that toxic positivity that gets no one nowhere, because some people are just not as resilient as others. I mean, I've been through some pretty fucked up experiences, and at times I sit there and I look at some people that have like a breakup with a boyfriend, they've been together maybe 6 months, and you sit there and go and they're losing their shit, and I'm going, 6 months? Did you even meet his family? I mean, what's the so different people have got different levels of resilience when they're dealing with trauma and shit experiences in life. I can see what potentially someone might be feeling if their dad was as sick as this, as my one at this point, and was facing what he is facing. And if it was a good connection, you would expect to be able to better not be dialing again. You would expect them to feel a hell of a lot more lower in energy, more depressed, more maybe even angry or frustrated at the circumstances, because it would feel like an injustice. Obviously, you get to the core of it, it feels like an injustice. You're losing this well-loved, amazing person if you had a good relationship with them. My dad had a very, depending on when I post this, a very complicated relationship, which didn't leave any space in adulthood for emotional connection. A lot of men have this problem with their dads, funny enough. It's strange that a female would have it. Generically speaking, we're supposed to be daddy's girls, but at the same time, it's like, I was a neither girl. I was neither a mummy's girl or a daddy's girl. I was I'm going to do it on my own and fuck off kind of girl. It's like, just don't. I don't like the uncomfortableness that comes with relying on other people. I feel like I'm a burden to people, and it irritates me that it also kind of reflects a sense of incompetence. It's like, if I need to rely on anyone, even for the slightest thing, it pisses me off. That sense of perfection comes from being drilled by my mum. She would not allow for failure, so in the event that I need help, or I need to grieve, or I need to lean on someone's shoulder, I just won't accept it. I won't even go looking for it. I want to deal with myself in isolation so I don't feel like a fucking crap while I'm crying. Essentially. And most of the time it hits me when I'm either in the shower or on the toilet or in the car. I did that last night as well. Honestly, I was coming back at something like 10 o'clock at night, and I was just tears, because I'm just like, I can't. It's complicated. I'm still trying to figure out why I'm upset as well. It's weird, given the logical arrangement that we have I can't, like, if it was a good connection, definitely you'd be grieving, you'd be upset, and you'd be falling apart, falling to pieces. Maybe you'd have a midlife crisis or something like that. Some people lose a parent and then it sits on them for the rest of their life. Like, you think of Prince Harry, for example. He's milked that shit for 20 odd years. So they're going, your mum, yes, you loved her, yes, but it's been 20 odd years now. Surely you can get over it. But apparently some people have no resilience, or maybe he's using it as a PR stunt. I don't know. But it seems like 2.5 decades nearly is a fucking long time to be grieving something. I don't know. See, that's again down to the individual. I don't know how resilient they are. I don't know what they've been through that matches or creates some kind of hardness or toughness in their life that this is deemed a smaller thing than what could have potentially happened. Like, for example, I know Harry has been to Hellman Province. He would have seen maybe some action there. That's where he was based at one point. I don't know if he stayed there. Surely anything that's mentally trauma based, from being in combat or in a situation where potentially you could be faced with combat and inevitably potentially losing your life, could be worse off than losing your mum at 12. Surely that could be perceived to be worse because it's front and center. It's more up close and personal. As an adult, you have more time to sort of saturate yourself in the potential trauma which could occur from this. You comprehend the situation more, and so there's a greater risk of developing trauma. When you're a kid, it's less trauma because you're not quite alert enough compared to an adult who can sit there and reason and feed on the circumstances which could build trauma. I know you can get trauma as a kid. I did, but at the same time, I picked up that trauma supposedly subconsciously through osmosis of the experience and the environment I was in. It was prolonged, hence the reason it's CPTSD and not just PTSD. It was a sustained attack, which developed into not only personality characteristics and traits, but also disorders later on in life, which gradually showed up over a series of 5, 10, 15, 20 years. It gradually went in waves of showing me shit that shouldn't be there, me fixing it or trying to fix it with what I have, and then finding another one pop up. That's one of the downsides of CPTSD. I don't know if PTSD is any different, but its problem is that it feeds on other disorders, whereas PTSD is more simple. You just get some fucked up experiences which will shape you for the rest of your life, but it doesn't really create a series of other knock-on effects where other disorders develop. There's a slight difference, but it's similar, but it's a slight difference. So if you've had trauma when you're a kid at 12 and you lose a parent, obviously it's going to shape you, but not to the extent as it would losing an adult parent, as an adult I should say, because you're not as aware of what's going on. You haven't built up a wealth of pleasant experiences. You're going to have more interactions with that person at 40 than you would have had at 12. So it would have been a richer existence with that person, a greater loss potentially. At least that's my opinion. I could be wrong, obviously. I mean, maybe if it was a caring parent, then there would have been more intense feelings, whereas you might numb yourself as you get older, and it's not so bad, so you could go the other way. I don't know. I've not lost a parent that was young. I'm currently losing a parent which at an age which is not reasonable, because he shouldn't be, because he's 69, he shouldn't be going through at this stage. He's early. He should be looking at 70 to 80 on average. So basically this was a consequence of lifestyle choices. It's not really a spontaneous event. We kind of saw it coming. We just anticipated there would be a longer time period to deal with the situation. The speed at which it's picked up has been something that's feeding the adrenaline at this point. And the automatic response is to go into jobs mode. Give me a jobs list, get me down, I want to get through the next segment. What's the directive? And I automate the situation. So my feelings are slightly getting pushed to the side at this point in order to get the tasks done. I know that people need picking up at the airport. I know that I need to work every day. I need to go and run my businesses. I need to go and sort out my mum. Currently at this point I'm going to my mum's house. I need to check that she's alright and she's sorted, she doesn't need anything, and then I'm going to head to the hospital with my younger sister, picking her up on the way, and we keep running. Everything has been compartmentalized and segmented. While I was at work today, I was trying not to think about it because I still have to have my head in the game with the job. So whilst I can't make myself immune to the circumstances while I'm at work, it still needs to be compartmentalized to a degree so I can keep progressing with my job. I don't have time to fuck around. I've got the care of 30 kids on my conscience. So I have to push my shit to the side for now, then I'll pick it up when I get to the end, or at least at the end of the day. So when the 3 o'clock bell went today, I was gunning it out of that fucking school, getting home, walk the dog. It's like I go into a very automated response to get the shit done. It's not a case of collapse and give up and cry and I don't know what I'm doing with myself. I don't think I have that vulnerability and softness. I don't think it was allowed growing up. So my version of grief is to become uber fucking efficient. So it's like, if you need anything, I'm there. What do you need? I'll do it. Get on with it. Get up to it. Yep. So we keep running, and it's a weird way to deal with shit, but it does help you in crisis situations. Like if you were raised in chaos and you are so used to and trained to react in ways that would be constructive to progressing things forward, even though it's a complete fiery shitstorm and inferno of shit going wrong, and everything's broken, and you can't fix things, and you have to go without, and all this kind of shit that you get used to, particularly in a poverty cycle, if you manage to work your way out of it. It trains you and your mind to focus and get running with it. It doesn't let you fucking collapse. If you're so used to losing things, at this point, nearly halfway through my life, I'm losing one of my parents. At this point, I'm fully automating my responses. I'm just running with it. Not to say I don't feel, not to say that I don't question what my response will be after this situation is over, but this time it's pure adrenaline and we're just going forward. Why are you cutting me off, jackass? Anyway, and dealing with idiots on the way, so we're going to keep running. What I can really do with now is a fucking coffee. I'm existing on caffeine fumes and gum right now. I managed to get some food in before I hit the road, but it's still going to be an hour and a half down to, or an hour and 10 to my mom's farm, and then another fucking 40 minutes down to Bunbury. So it's crazy. You just keep running. I do question, again, this is like when I had diagnosed with depression when I left my ex-husband. I didn't lose the fucker, he's still running around somewhere. But bastard. But open relationship, you bastard. 16 years. But you know, I was diagnosed with depression at that time period. I don't even know if that went away. I just kind of ignored it. So that's not a healthy way to look at it. But at the same time, I was crying still and still functioning. So I still went through the whole constructive way of dealing with the grief. Yes, I did listen to sad music. I fucking love sad music sometimes because it's what makes me cry. Again, as I said before, I have issues with breaching the threshold of making me cry. It's like feeling like edging, you know? You ever dry shag someone? You're like, why isn't it working? This is a bad analogy, but it's like I'm trying, but it's just not getting there. So, you know, the music sort of drops it over the edge, and you actually can cry and deal with the grief of the situation and the heartache. And at that point, I was alone, thoroughly alone in Bob's house, my dead granddad's house at the time. So that year, I lost 2 grandparents, homeless, and all the extra crap. Like, you probably know the story by now. If you listen to the other podcasts, it's full detail. But the way I dealt with that was listening to music and just automating my responses and getting on with work. I threw myself into work. I didn't distract myself so much with it, but I needed to feel like I had a purpose and to be constructive with the situation. I don't do the bed rotting shit. It makes me feel horrible. It makes me feel like unclean. It's like when you haven't washed, like I have 2 showers a day because I'm weird. Like when I wake up and when I go to bed, but because I like being clean. But when I haven't washed in a day and I've just gone back to bed and woke up the next day, I feel like absolute shit. I feel very unclean and I don't like it. It feels grimy. So people who bed rot, the idea of people who can sit there in bed and bed rot, it feels disgusting to me. Because I can't understand how that's going to help. But that's only when you're in a depressive state. It's like some people it helps. So it's a nurturing environment. Maybe it's like building a nest and you just sit there until you feel comfortable to be yourself again. I don't have that. I don't stop. My brain doesn't stop, for example. I swear there's a hint of ADHD in there. I wasn't diagnosed with ADHD, but the brain doesn't stop. Even when I'm breathing, even when I'm sleeping. Like last night, it was 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was still awake and my brain was ticking over and I was, you know, getting a bit teary and stuff. And I'm just sitting there thinking about what's going on and stuff. Eventually I did go to sleep, but at the same time I had to wake up at 5. So it's not a good thing, the hyperactivity of my brain. Some people can just shut off and just... if I am anticipating the attack or trying to work on a project like this, then my brain is full pelt just running. It doesn't shut off. The inner voice doesn't go. You know, everybody's got that inner voice they try and talk to themselves with. No, I'm not hearing voices. No, I'm not schizophrenic. That inner monologue where you're just trying to sort shit out in your head. That doesn't shut down. It just goes into a series of different thoughts. Sometimes relaying the same thoughts over and over again, sort of in limerence. trying to work what happened out, what could be done next. It just doesn't stop. So if I can't sleep, it's best to just leave me to it. But most days I can just pass the fuck out, so it's not a problem. I don't lose sleep over stuff often, but it's usually quite big things. Like when I like my ex-husband, I wasn't sleeping at all, so my doctor prescribed diazepam. I took one and I stopped taking it because I didn't like it at all. I'm like, I don't know what this is, this substance, I don't like it, no, I'm not doing it. It was a medicated, well, like it was a prescription thing. She only gave me 2 tablets or something like that. She said, look, you obviously need to pass out, you need to sleep. Take 2 of these, at least tonight, and then sleep at least one night. And I took one because I'm a Cadbury, glass and a half, and I'm under the table. I'm sitting there thinking, if I take these prescription tablets, I'm going to be out. So I took half dose. And I think I slept for an hour and I didn't like it. And I'm like, fuck this, I'm not doing this. So I started cognitive behavioral therapy techniques in order to try and promote better sleep hygiene, like dim lighting, reading before bed, not looking at a screen, trying to regulate routine, all the ones you can go through, and you can research them on YouTube. There's tons of them up there for better health, sleep health, hygiene. If you're having trouble sleeping while you're grieving. And eventually they took hold of it and it worked out as well. It also helped that I made myself physically tired during the day, because then I just didn't have the energy to stay up at night. So I was going to the gym and doing stuff like that. I was looking at any way to sort of build myself up and deal with the anxiety or the tension or the anger or the sadness that was associated with that particular context at my point in life, at that point in life. I don't know if I would need it for this one, because I'm pretty busy as it is, before and after the job, and dealing with the runaround of everyone else as well, pitching in and trying to get shit done. So I don't think I will be losing sleep on this, which sounds horrible, because most people would be like, oh, you would have stayed awake all night, ruminating on shit. And this time I'm just too physically exhausted. I'm just physically fucking exhausted. And if I'm not on the go running, then I might cry a bit. But then it's like, okay, get that out and then on to the next thing. It's not a case of fixating and dwelling and dealing with the shit in that way. And I think there's a lot of people that deal with it that way, because you don't really have a choice but to keep running, do you? I mean, yeah, so. But if you can, and it's probably a good idea, if you're good at it, talking to people in a social context, probably good to sign up to something like counseling and stuff like that. Like I signed up to a site for the divorce thing, which helped me get diagnosed, but the things I was doing, I was told to do, I was already doing anyway. She's like, have you tried this? Well, have you done that, Bill? She's like, I already got a degree in psych, I know what to do, I just need you to give me other ideas. And she's like, wow. So I was like, okay, the next step is medication. I'm like, well, I'm not fucking doing that. So it's like, there's not much more we can do if you're not willing to medicate, other than keep up with what you're doing in practice to deal with the grief of the situation until it passes. And it never fucking passes entirely, and it just gets numbed down a bit so you can keep progressing. You build up a tolerance or a resilience to the stimulus. And in time it does heal somewhat. But it's not gonna, you're not going to be immune to any kind of change that comes from it. What I was anticipating with losing my dad at this point was the potential for a relationship that could have been mended or possibly worked on over the next couple of years, couple of decades maybe. But the reality of the situation is I may never actually get to be able to do that, and we're just going to have to let those cards lie, because time has run out. It seems we left something too long and it just ran out, which is a bit of a shame, obviously, because you like, if there's any chance for healing or connection or building some kind of familiar intimacy again with a person who you've had no real connection to the majority of your life, you should try for it. But at the same time, if the opportunity is lost, if the boat's sailed, that's what you got to work with. You don't really have a choice. to peaceably interact with each other. So there was a lot of responsibility put on us kids as well. But generally, it was nothing we could have a say in, because we just didn't have the authority to operate and do that. In a lot of families, there's a sense of hierarchy where the adults are the parents that are seen to be have more power and sway, even with adult children. I know my siblings and I act a little bit different when we're around our mum and dad. Get the kids together, it's easy, it's no problem, but when your mum and dad are there, you've got to act particular ways, which is kind of harked back to our childhood. So it's preconditioned response, basically. You wouldn't sit there and talk about, dark humor and fucked up jokes like my brother and I do. We send memes and stuff to each other. It would be in poor taste, and so you can't really have fun that way. It was some fucking dark humor. When my parents are around, you can't really do that, because first of all, they don't get the jokes, and then second of all, they might get pissed off, and it's a whole big discussion or a lecture about why we're potentially evil people, or it's like, oh, come on, where's your sense of humor? But there are different ways of behaving around my older people, the older people in my family, should I say. So if you can fix unhealthy relationships, absolutely go for it, but at some point you're going to have to realize that even in a time of grief, such as losing a family member, it might be still impossible to rebuild some bonds which deserve to be rebuilt if both parties or several parties find some kind of means to keep the grudge running. It takes a great deal of humility to try and seek out to rebuild bridges, and that's the problem a lot of people have. It's like they've got their pride hurt and they don't want to make peace because fuck you hurt my feelings, or you did this, you embarrassed me, you humiliated me, you ruined my fucking life, some shit like that. So, and at some point, if you are the instigator of conflict, you will need to have some humility in admitting that you might have been wrong, or maybe miscommunicated what you needed, or something might have gone wrong, or it wasn't what you thought it was going to be, or maybe you reacted in the wrong way, or something like that. Like I'm pretty known for being tactless at times. I have to deal with that situation, so I don't mind if my siblings call me up on it and say, what the fuck did you say that? I'm going, I don't know, but I prefer to be clear cut and concise rather than pussyfoot around the situation, sugarcoat shit. That's just me. You will never get a lie out of me. I will give you the absolute truth straight up. I don't water shit down. This is why I never talk to anyone. I go full Encanto Bruno at times. Like, just leave it to it. And often I get left to my own devices, and it's because I do say shit that is outlandish sometimes, but at the same time, it's true, and it's based on evidence and observation. So, do you want the truth or do you want tact? I don't do bullshit. I don't like it. If it's bullshit, we don't tend to be able to fix or deal with the situation because we don't know the variables involved. So as long as you're telling the truth, we can work on this and fix it. It's when people bullshit and play the mind games that shit doesn't get fixed, because you're just feeding into the actual drama of the situation. It goes nowhere, it doesn't fix anything. So even when it comes to grief, I don't like bullshit. Which is probably why I tend to isolate, because some people put on this sort of persona It was met with the professional politeness. Oh, isn't that good news? Wow. Okay, so this is where you're going next, and this is. So it was just immediately sort of acknowledged but brushed off and kept walking. I'm going, right, so you don't give a fuck about me. Okay. I won't do that again. So now I just tend to keep my shit to myself, unless I'm doing this. But the thing is, you can gauge people's depth in concern for you by the kinds of responses you'll get from your interactions with them. If you tell people that are supposedly your friends events like that, and to see their reaction, do they actually give a fuck, or do they say, oh, that sucks, and then change the topic? Then you'll know that particularly not either they can't cope with the situation themselves, or they just don't give a fuck. It's not that type of friendship. So you'll also find, and this pisses off my type of ASD, my autism, pisses me off, because there is now a multifaceted approach to friendship now, where there's varying degrees and depths of friendship, which complicates the situation even fucking further. It's like, I've got friends from year 2 when I was 7. My friend Andrew I've known since I was 7, and now I'm 40 in May. So there was one point where I used to relate to him really well at primary school, and then we kind of got through high school. We were still friends, but not really close friends, because we kind of went off and did our own thing. And then we left high school, went through uni, we knew of each other sort of thing as friends. And then we went off into adulthood, and then kind of, we're friends, but we're kind of people who kind of know each other more than friends. That's right. So it faded away a little bit. I still consider him a friend, but in primary school he was my best friend. Whereas now at nearly 40, he's like, he's a guy, that's my friend. It's like, sometimes we talk to each other, but not all the time, and not most of the time, and it's kind of, I knew you in high school, or I knew you in primary school kind of thing. I like you, so I'll keep you on my Facebook. But, you know, do we meet up every now and again? Not really. So would I go to him with this problem? No. Would I go to my friend Chris, my gay friend Chris, who's fabulous, and I love him because he's awesome. He has a lot more feeling and experience with this particular context, because he's a nurse. He would see cases like this every day. He might have greater understanding. And when his mum died of cancer herself, which wasn't that long ago, maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago or so, he had gone through this process himself to a degree, maybe not exactly the same, but he could relate to the context of my experiences. So I'm more inclined to go to him to discuss it if I would actually, you know, drop my walls for 5 seconds and talk about it to anyone that's not an immediate sibling. So you can see there's depths to friendships, and those who are around you who will offer some kind of comfort and be available to discuss these kinds of issues, such as grief, in varying depths. Not everyone is going to be open to it. And to be honest, as someone with autism, I fucking hate the fakery at work of people who show concern but don't really give a fuck. So I don't bother mentioning anything about my personal life at work, and so I don't bother building any kind of connections at work. I mean, that me mentioning the lump was a one-off. I just wanted to test the waters to see if anyone, because I've been working at school for a few years, just to see if anyone actually gave a fuck enough to know about me. So I didn't bother doing that again, and kept it very formal after that. It's like, no one actually gives a fuck at work. They pretend to because they have to work with you. Which is cynical, really, because I'm looking at these people, and some of them build really good social groups and cliques, and I'm going, well, obviously I'm not getting anyone to click because I don't do cliques. But it would have been nice to be able to relate these kinds of experiences to anyone. So you might find yourself very isolated, either voluntarily, like I am, or generally because everybody else has got their own drama and shit going on. I am semi-isolated at this stage, only because I still have to interact with my siblings on this group project. So I will still have some, obviously, concern for what's going on with my little sister, who's been crying. She was crying yesterday while I was at work. I know that because I walked in from work and she was still crying, and I'm like, okay, so alright, so you need help, you need comforting, okay, or at least some kind of distraction from this. So I'm sitting there cracking jokes and shit very inappropriately, because some people just want to sit and cry. I don't deal with grief that well, particularly when I'm around other people. If I'm around other people, I'll sit there and try and break the silence and crack jokes and make them laugh and distract them. So the entire trip up to where I'm going now, which is my dad's hospital, we were sitting there talking about fart jokes and stuff. And I was trying to distract her, and I'm sitting there going, have you got any music that's from like our era we're going to go see what she's doing now, essentially. So she's handling her grief in a particular way. I don't know what kind of real relationship she will have with him towards the end of his life. Because I've spent the last 40 years of my life watching these two fuckers fight as a love language. So it's like even fighting from one end of the house to the other. So I don't know if they will soften towards each other in the upcoming events and maybe try to support each other in that way. She's more like a demanding, take your medicine, this is the way I'm going to show my affection for you, so you take your medicine, you go and have a wash, you get looked up, you have to do it. She does things by force, she doesn't do things by coercion. My dad is, I swear, oppositional defiance syndrome. He will rail against it, you're not telling me what to do, and that's how they start most fights. She'll tell him you have to, and he'll say no, I fucking won't, and then it's just for hours. Even in his hospital bed, he's sitting there arguing with her about fucking medication and shit. I'm going, I'm stepping out of this. I don't have the patience to deal with this shit right now. Sort it out. So, fucking fix it. So, I don't know how she's going to cope with her form of grief in the days coming up, because she's never been alone. She's never been alone. She's always had him or the kids, or, you know, she's never been alone. So she's going to face her independent life and the silence that comes with that, and the stillness, and have to reconcile with a few internal issues, as I did when I went into my dark night of the soul, when I got separated and I was alone. She's going to have to deal with those at 67, and it's quite late in an age to have to deal with that shit when you've never been alone, never known silence. So we'll see how she deals with that. Obviously we're going to be supporting her, and it's great to have the networks that can support you, but if you're facing it on your own, it can be a bit of a hard task to grieve circumstances of a loss, even if it's something menial as like losing a job, which is never a permanent feature, whereas death is a bit more permanent, really, isn't it? I mean, you might get crossed over to the other side, given a job to do, gone to heaven, depending on your belief system. Maybe you go to heaven, maybe you get cycled around into another baby, maybe you get stuck on the other side having to guide your family through shit you fucked up when you were here in the 3D. So it's all based on your belief system. I have a strong feeling my dad's going to be more inclined to do that when he passes through, because there was a lot of shit he didn't fix while he was here. I have a strong feeling that's his next leg of the journey. That's my beliefs. He will be sent through, but he has to, much like Bob, help on the other side in order to ascend. I'm pretty sure Nanny's already ascended. Just a feeling, gut feeling, kind of intuition kind of thing going on. So that's my beliefs. You can put it down to what the fuck, but you know, that's my feeling at this point. Fred went right through. He was fine. He had nothing to do on this side left. Everything was sorted. He was great. I had a dream one time where I saw him on a mountaintop, and I got there by bus or train, and the bus stop was right outside his house. He was just doing some gardening. It was somewhere like in Switzerland or something like that, and he didn't know he was dead, and I had to try and convince him. It's like, do you know you're dead? And it's one of those weird sort of intuitive, sort of divine intervention dreams, because I explained it to my mum the next day, and it, you know, it brought back some memories and tears, and she was happy to hear about her dad. And it is a way that he would have reacted in the 3D when he was alive. That kind of reaction. He's saying, I'm not dead. Don't be silly, sort of thing. So it was nice to have some kind of reminiscent, nostalgic feeling about him, even if it was just a dream. Or maybe it was the intuition. Or maybe it was divine intervention. Or maybe it was just, you know, the spirit realm speaking. Or the ether speaking. You know, you never know, because we don't know everything. So that's how we get beliefs and spiritual awareness about people on the other side and stuff like that. If you believe that kind of thing. Obviously, a lot of people don't. My dad, for example, is an atheist. He thinks you're dead, you're dead. You go into the ground, you lose consciousness, you don't think of anything, you don't go anywhere, you don't do anything. And to be honest, he won't know till he gets there. We don't know. But at the same time, you would want to leave this planet, or whichever way you want to view it, with a clean conscience, knowing that you've done your best. Even if you had to, you know, cram it in the end. So, you know, request we've got from him at the moment, which I find fucking hilarious, is that he wants to be cremated. Obviously, we're all cremated in this line. We've still got my nanny and my granddad in an urn, not an urn, but like the plastic box you get from the crematory, somewhere in his office in the house. I'm sitting going, why do we still have these ashes? So I don't know what to do with them. I was like, I don't know what to do with them. But he wants to be cremated like that, and he wants to be cremated in his West Ham shirt with I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles playing. I'm going, West Ham fan to the end, isn't it? It's like you just want to go out with a bang, right? So that's obviously his request. He's not fancy, but he wants to get it done that way. I'm sitting there going, well, obviously you don't want a big funeral with everybody coming around and doing a big fancy show of attention, but you know, you got to put your quirks in there, and it is him to want to have links to something like West Ham or something. I'm surprised he hasn't got some kind of Napoleonics Warhammer, not Warhammer, but like War Games kind of thing going on there as well, because that's what his life has been the majority of the time. He is an avid reader, so I'm surprised he's not wanting to be, you know, cremated with a shitload of books or something based on Napoleon Bonaparte or something. It sounds like something he would want to do. So you're going, go fancy, dude, if you're gonna. But yeah, so he's come to somewhat terms with what might happen or what's coming up. Although again, he doesn't talk about his feelings, so I don't know essentially what he's feeling in terms of the process that's about to come. He doesn't grieve well, even if it's the loss of himself. He doesn't want to deal with it. He's an avoidant. A lot of the time he's been sleeping it off, even when shit goes bad. Like, he is not a good person to go to in crisis situations. We know this much from experience growing up. He does not cope with crisis situations. He either goes to sleep for long periods of time, or he gets intensely agitated, goes a bit berserkery. Not in a sense that he's berserker when he's angry, which he did frequently when we were growing up, but also in the case of low tolerance for shit that happens. He gets feisty and temper-based. He's not a calm man in a crisis situation. So he's hiding that side of things quite well. I don't know if he's hiding it by just pretending to do the whole toxic masculinity thing, or because he's reconciled with the fact of the situation that's going on, or he's just putting on a mask, or he's in denial. So I can't get it out of him. Even sort of energetically reading sense of thing, I feel like he's not coping well, but he's going with it anyway. And I think the speed of it might have actually helped the situation, because it's hitting him before he's actually hitting him, if that makes sense. He hasn't got a chance to sit and fixate on what's happening. So at least that's a blessing in itself. And the way they've described it is, the way he's going to finally pass through is the toxins are just going to slow down his body. He's going to get really, really tired. He's going to sleep and sleep more. He's not going to be in pain, and eventually he'll just go into sleep. So compared to what happened to Bob, who we think either slipped, cracked his head and then bled out in a puddle of his own blood, or had a heart attack and fell over and cracked his head and slipped in a puddle of his own blood, compared to what happened to his dad, a hell of a lot more peaceful and a blessing, to be honest. To go out peaceably like that, rather than in a panicked, horrible way, is a godsend. So that's helping us, kind of in a selfish way really, because it's not happening to us, but it's helping us deal with what needs to get done around the edges of this is obviously his time, his day. Whatever he needs, we'll give it to him. It's about him. Everything's about him right now, just unquestionably. We're not even going to dispute that. But it's helping us deal with what needs to get done around the outside until the event happens, and then we can deal with the fallout. So yeah, that is a godsend in itself. If you were assuming that you would go out, or he would go out horribly and painfully, then it would make the whole situation a hell of a lot worse. The grief would be even worse. It would be a nightmare compared to the slow and steady plodding that we're getting through now at this point. Everything's sort of just getting tied up. Loose ends are either getting cut up or tied up. Cut off or tied up. And that's helping the whole situation. So he's dealing with his part really well. Everyone's got on this sort of armor of a brave face and will just get the job done. The Stoic way of doing things. If you listen to the Stoic podcast, we're just using those skills to get through this current situation of grief. And I feel like once this happens, we can let things melt maybe a little bit afterwards, but the getting to is what we're trying to drive for at this point. As I said before, if you've lived through a poverty cycle, you're no stranger to loss. This is just another form of loss. And you do become somewhat desensitized to the situation. And given the speed of this situation, a lot of us are dealing with just keeping the ball running sort of thing. Getting the job done, tying loose ends. And when it's done, and we'll give rest afterwards sort of thing. We'll stay till the job's done sort of thing. I don't know what we're going to do afterwards. Maybe we'll get together for some kind of commemorative lunch or dinner or something like that, and possibly openly grieve. At the moment, it's a case of catching each other, semi-crying, and then trying to right, what's next sort of thing. Like yesterday when my sister and I left my dad, as soon as we got to the lift, we both went a bit wobbly. So it's been crazy. But you still got to perk up a bit and keep going. So we're not denying our feelings for this grieving situation. We're possibly delaying them a little bit to get the job done. And when the job's done, we know what to do next. We'll let it out. We can hopefully just deal with the situation and that. My dad, I know for a fact, has this big thing about putting on a brave face. He did it when both my grandparents died, my mum's parents. He also did it later on when his parents died. It's a strange thing where they don't want to see people sad or upset in case it brings down the morale. Some people need to see other people upset and crying to understand what's going on. So when my sister started crying at the start, my ASD brain is like, okay, are you crying because this happened? And I actually sat down and I asked her, because I like clarity, and this is a bit dumb for my sake, but I need to know why she's upset. Sometimes I get it, and sometimes I need clarity. I'm going, why are you upset? Are you upset because this happened, or because they said that? Or I need to find the exact source of why at that particular moment she's crying. And it drives her nuts. She goes full sarcastic mode. She's like, oh, fuck off. And I'm going, but why? She thinks I'm taking a piss, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to analyze the situation. I'm sitting there going, what particular event in that lineup is the main problem here for you? Because I want to understand it so I understand you better, so I can react better, so I can support you better. Which, like, the other day there was a series of events that occurred, and she didn't cry right to the end. And I'm going, okay, so something in that lineup, the logical lineup of those events which would create a problem, which would lead to someone crying, because I've seen it before and I know. One of those things would have made this happen. Which one? Which one is your button that we need to be careful about? And she told me to fuck off. And I'm sitting going, you bitch. I need help. But she grieves in a different way. She just tells people to fuck off. She isolates as well, but she's not. She denies herself somewhat. Oh, someone's car's broken down. She doesn't like people seeing her crying. She feels embarrassed by it, obviously, because we were, raised tough. Raised tough so you can get through any kind of shit, get on with it, and to show crying and softness is weakness to a degree. It's not weak, obviously. If you can cry your bloody eyes out and keep powering on, that's intensely strong, because you've got a duality there. Not only are you conquering the toxicity of not being able to cry because you're perceived as weak, but also you're getting through the jobs you need to in the day to progress the situation to a better degree. People who collapse and cry and give up, I would say, is possibly the weaker, but at the same time you would have a greater richness and depth of understanding the depression in the situation if you did stop and register what's going on. So, you know, swings and roundabouts about that situation. I suppose it's down to how you're designed or conditioned to respond to a traumatic event, I guess. I know I'm fucked in the head, so I do analyze these things, and some people react a different way, where I just go, I don't know why you went that way, but okay. I don't know. Weird situations, and I suppose it's down to the individual, obviously. I'm going to have to leave it there pretty soon. Because I'm up to an hour already, and I know that this cuts out soon. Take it easy. If you're going through the grieving process, obviously I soon will be, or I am currently in. My SD brain's having trouble picking it up. Spontaneous, weird crying, but okay. I wish you the best. I wish you so much support and love and happiness and understanding, and hopefully get some kind of clarity of its situation. Maybe you could practice detachment about the situation as well, and understand maybe there's, dare I say it, reasons why these kind of events happen, and hopefully there's a silver lining to your situation, even if it's something as simple as I lost my job. It doesn't even have to be necessarily a death or anything like that. There is always a silver lining to situations, and you have to have that optimistic viewpoint. I'm hoping that your physical pain or your emotional pain doesn't last that long. It's never a nice experience. Some people thrive on that shit. They enjoy being sad. I'm going in mental. But I know that to be grieving for extended periods of time is not healthy. So I'm hoping that you get some support and love and affection. Network if you can. If you're the kind of person that can go to other people for support, absolutely go for it. I'm not, but you know, we'll see how I cope with that later on. But absolutely reach out and find someone. Go to counselling if you have to. If you're worried about how your people in your close proximity will think about you, then go to a random counsellor or something. They don't have to be in your immediate friendship group or anything like that. As long as you're voicing what happens, just as I'm doing here, this is my form of therapy. It's always best to get it off your chest in order to, if only, process it so you can grieve better and work through the feelings associated with this horrible experience that a lot of us will face in our life but never really anticipate fully what's going to happen. I'm going to have to leave it there. I hope you have a fantastic Wednesday. And hopefully I'll do another podcast on the way somewhere else, maybe. Hopefully at home painting at some point, because I'm exhausted at this point. I'm sick of driving. Take it easy, okay? Remember that it can't rain all the time. What's that they said in The Crow? Remember, it can't rain all the time. And I'll see you guys another time.